You know, I know your guys are gonna agree here. When it's fall, what do you love to do? It gets a little cooler outside, you want something cozy, so you come in and you bake. So I am in the baking room here of my kitchen, and I'm gonna make pumpkin whoopie pies. If you haven't had a whoopie pie, it is like a sandwich cookie. You get cakey, beautiful, delicious cookies, 2 of them with a good cream filling, and these are amped up because they're pumpkin whoopie pies. Like, what more could you want? And they're really easy. So I'm just gonna start by putting the ingredients together in the mixer. We're gonna start with some sugar. Of course, I'm using brown, which you do not have to use brown sugar when you're doing anything with pumpkin, but I do think it kind of amps up that caramely, molassesy flavor. And especially during the fall here, isn't that what you love? That's what I love. So I'm gonna dump this in, I think that was, and then we're just gonna put in some, it's a little bit, a lot of times when you cook with pumpkin, you use oil, and that's what makes it a lot more moist. So I'm gonna add in the oil, just a neutral oil. I a lot of times use grapeseed or safflower oil. You could use a vegetable oil, but I like those too. We're gonna mix that up just to kind of combine the sugar and the oil together. It's not gonna get like obviously light and fluffy, but as you can see, it just combines it, gets those going. And so now into that, we're gonna add the pumpkin. Hello, pumpkin. I don't know if you're like me, but in the fall, you just kind of keep pumpkin around for everything. I even put it in if I'm making like a squash soup, and I just kind of want to balance it out, add a little bit more either sweetness or just actually pumpkin has a ton of fiber. So it's always good to even add into your chilies, like chili soup. I'm gonna add in the pumpkin, and then I'm just gonna add in the eggs. It's kind of like the rest of our wet ingredients here. That's what I love about fall. It can be extremely simple. As long as you put pumpkin in it, it's fall. And honestly, pumpkin is delicious, so there's no complaining. And anytime you make these whoopie pies, they're gonna be gone. They're just good. The pumpkin, the egg are incorporated, and now we're just gonna move on to the dry ingredients. So it's pretty simple, not the sugar. We're gonna do some flour. We already have the sugar in there. So again, I always say, make sure to scoop and sweep. Not scoop and sweep, but scoop it with something else, dump it in, overfill it, sweep it off. That way you don't get too much flour. It's really easy if you're just gonna scoop the flour directly into your measuring cup. It packs it in there and you get more than you need, and then you have a dry baked good. No one wants that. No, instead, you're just gonna dump it in. There we go. And as I said, this recipe is not only in the description of the video, it's also on the website. So you can find this recipe everywhere you look. So I'm gonna add in some baking powder. That's just the leavener we're using in this. And then all that autumn goodness. So we're gonna add some cinnamon. Why? I think that's obvious, because cinnamon is delicious. And it's kind of like a pumpkin pie in the sense that we're adding some ginger, some ground ginger. Again, that's what I always will make sure is in my pumpkin pie. Just a few cloves. Cloves can really overdo it. And I know some people really don't like cloves. That's fine, leave them out. I honestly like the depth they add to it. And then some nutmeg. I always do the whole nutmeg. This is actually still even in the shell and you get it off. I had a friend that went down to Grenada on actually a mission trip, and they brought me back all of this nutmeg. It's delicious. And nutmeg is one that it goes bad really quickly when it's ground up. And so that's why often you see people on shows, TV, it's not a hoity-toity thing. It actually just is a better flavor. And it keeps a lot better in your house if you just have it in whole form. And then to finish it off, we of course need some salt because it's a baked good. Obviously you need some salt to balance it out, and a little bit of vanilla. Vanilla, it doesn't always traditionally go in something pumpkin, but if I'm baking something, I like to add vanilla. It just rounds out the flavor for me, and I like that. So I'm gonna mix this up slow at first so I don't have a cloud of flour everywhere. I've done it. As soon as I see no streaks of flour, you can see that I am stopping because I don't want to overmix it. It can just kind of create a tough cookie or cake, whatever you're making. So I'm gonna clean up, get my baking sheets out, and then we're just gonna start making the whoopie pies. It's that simple. I put them into a bowl just so it could be easier for me to move them over. And then I just use a large cookie scoop, ice cream scoop, whatever you want to call it, and make the portion of the cookies. It's pretty simple. You just take them and you portion each one. Now I'm putting it on parchment lined baking sheet because then it's easier to take them off, obviously. They don't stick as bad. These are more of a cakey cookie, so they're gonna have a tendency to wanna stick to whatever you put them on. So the parchment it just makes it easier. And it's really simple and clean, which I like too. You can just portion them really easily already. It smells delicious. It just screams fall. I don't know what it is about a whoopie pie, it just is good. It's just slightly different than the classic chocolate. So once they're ready to go, you just pop them into a preheated oven. Let them bake. I'm gonna get the other tray ready, and then we're gonna move on and make the filling, because you need a filling in a whoopie pie. I'm finishing baking them up, but I have most of them here. They're getting cooled, which means we can move on to the filling. Any good sandwich cookie, any good whoopie pie needs a good filling. So this one isn't probably really too different than a lot of them, but we're gonna have our solid food staples here of the pyramid, some cream cheese and some butter. I like the mixture. The butter keeps it from going to me a little bit too soft and also just not getting too heavy. And cream cheese alone would take over the flavor. So I'm gonna first mix those two up and get them whipped up so they're light and fluffy before we put everything else in. Now, every so often, about 2 times probably at least, I'm gonna scrape down the sides here just to make sure it's getting incorporated, because as you can see, it's just pushing it against the sides. The bigger mixing bowl you have, I think this is a 6-quart, it will do this. So if you have a little bit smaller one, it actually would almost work better. But I'm gonna mix them up a little bit more just to make sure. I don't like lumps of cream cheese, so I want it to be very smooth, very mixed together. So that's the last time I need to mix it. You can see it's completely now, look how soft. And that's just whipped really well. Not necessarily a lot of air into it, but it's very well mixed. So I'm gonna scrape it down one last time just before I add the rest of the goodness here. We have all the health benefits going into this. Butter, cream cheese, and sugar. I'm gonna put in a little bit of flavoring. You could do just vanilla. I'm changing it up and I'm doing a little bit of maple syrup extract. I know it's kind of odd, but I think with the pumpkin, with fall, you need some maple, right? It's just delicious in there and I like it. But if you have vanilla, just use vanilla. And then powdered sugar. How else do you just make a good filling? We're gonna add it right in there, mix it up, and have a good frosting. So again, before I say I'm done, I just want to check it, make sure it's evenly incorporated. Sometimes stuff gets jammed down underneath the beater in that little divot in the bottom, so you just want to scrape it all together, make sure it's well mixed. And then of course, oh, I get a hit of that maple. That's nice. That's good. You could probably just do maple syrup too, but that would add a little bit more liquid. So now, I'm gonna take it off of here. I got everything I need to put together some delicious cookies. I'm gonna see if I like to use when I'm doing these, another scoop, slightly smaller, and just put a nice dollop of the mixture right in the middle. Yeah, I know, it's good. It would really be good. Like some ice cream, make like an ice cream sandwich out of them. And then just put them together. And you have the perfect whoopie pie. Now, you could make these any size you want. If you want to do a smaller cookie and do almost bite size, you could totally do that with a smaller scoop. Obviously, just then adjust the amount of frosting, or don't, and just have a good time. And that's all it is to these cookies. I can't help myself. They're really good. They're nice. They're nice and cakey, and yet still really moist. What's nice is the cream cheese kind of offsets all the sweetness in it, and they're just delicious. So I'm gonna make the rest of them, but more importantly, you need to go make them because they're so good. So if you wanna get in the fall spirit, if you wanna get cozy, you wanna bake something good and something to give away to everyone you love that's gonna love you now even more, make these whoopie pies. Share it around, pass it around, check my website for the recipe. There's other great recipes on there, so look around, stay a while, just move in, and share it around. I'm gonna make some more. Go make them, or eat them. Okay. This is good.